All right, this is Mr. Burgess. We're getting ready to start triangles and angles review number 2 today. So there's a couple more problems we wanted to review very quickly. For example, here's one where you have a couple of similar triangles, as it states right up here, and they're kind of stuck together by their ends right there, and they're upside down from each other. So how would we set up a proportion for this one? So let's take a look. What we would do is we would notice that the corresponding sides on these triangles are x and 2.5 and then on the other ones 7 and 3.5. So we set up a ratio between the corresponding sides, so x over 2.5 and 7 over 3.5 like this, and then we just solve the proportion for the unknown side. So we cross multiply and then divide by 3.5 on the end, and we end up with an x value of 5. And that looks pretty reasonable because you notice that the ratios are the same. So take a look at the next problem we have then. Sometimes you'll see a couple of similar triangles that look like this. You've got a smaller triangle with a side of 3 and a bottom of x here. Then this bigger triangle underneath it that has a base of 10. Then you have a number right here, like 5 right here. So how do we work that problem? Is this side really just 5, or what's going on here? So if we move through the problem and we take the red one off the top, we notice it's 3 on the side, x on the bottom. But we have to remember this whole side on the big one was the original 3 plus the 5 that was there. So that's an equal total of 8. And now we take the corresponding sides, x over 10. And that has to equal 3 over 8. So we do the same thing. We cross multiply. We do 3 times 10 divided by 8. And we end up with an x value of 3.75. And sometimes you do get a decimal, even though we've avoided that quite a bit this year. You will get into decimals, so don't be afraid of that. Okay, the last kind of problem we wanted to mention, well, there's actually 2 more. There's one that looks like this. This is another one of those problems where you have 2 lines that intersect and you set up a pair of vertical angles and something like this. So what we notice on this one is that the vertical angles are equal to each other. So 15x minus 53 we set equal to 112. And we can't stop there. We actually have to solve for x because that's really what they're looking for. So when we do that, we add 53 to both sides, and that gives us 15x equals 165. We divide by 15, we end up with an x value of 11. Well, what about the z value? Well, on the z value, we notice that z plus 112 equals this 180-degree angle. So if we do 180 minus 112, we end up with a z angle of 68 degrees, and so there's our total right there. 11 and 68. Okay, so the last example we have is a triangle. It has 3 corners to it, 3 angles. We want to find the measure of each angle. Well, we already know that the angle L is 90, and we'll be taking that and set up an equation between those 3 sides. So that's going to look something like this. We're going to get our 90-degree angle. Let me get the right pen in place. We'll have a 90-degree angle plus 5x plus 23. I'm just going around the triangle in this direction and adding up the 3 angles. It doesn't matter what direction you actually go, as long as you get them added correctly. So those 3 angles have to total 180 degrees. Well, what do I do next? Well, I combine my x's. 5x, 4x equals 9x. And then I take all my other numbers, 90, 23, and 22, and subtract them off. So 180 minus 90 minus 23 and minus 22. So 180 minus 90 is 90, and 90 minus 23 is 67, and minus 22 more is 45. So we end up with 9x equals 45. That 45 came from subtracting these three numbers from 180. Okay, now let's keep it going. We divide both sides by 9, and we end up with x equals a total of 5. 5 times 9 is 45. All right, so we take this back up. First of all, we notice that angle L is 90 degrees, so we put that in there. Then these other angles, we have to plug in the number 5 for x. So 5 times 5 plus 23. 25, this is 25 plus 23, that would be 48. So angle K is 48 degrees. And the last one, we've got 4 times 5, which is 20. And 20 plus 22 is going to equal 42. So our last angle is 42 degrees. And if you check, those three angles add up to 180. And that means we got the right answer. So thank you.